Does this happen too much? Or this? Or even this? If so, don't worry, this is just a video for you. I thought I'd do something different today instead of cooking up, so we're going to go through some tips to make FL Studio run quicker and smoother on your PC. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. First off, FL loves to have a window open, a tab open, a VST, something from the mixer channel. Any excuse to leave a window open, it will. How many times have you cycled through the open window knowing that effect from the mixer channel is there somewhere, it's just hard to find? Anyway, a quick and easy way to close those open windows is to press the F12 key. This will close everything except for the channel rack. In addition to closing everything, one of the added benefits is it frees up some CPU as well. If you've been working on a track for a while, it's easy to end up with multiple instances of patterns and audio clips in your project. Oftentimes, these aren't even used, they're just there as a byproduct of the creation process. You can get rid of all these in one quick step by going to Tools, Macros, and Purged Unused Audio Clips. Another good way to free up CPU power is to switch on Smart Disable. What this does is disable any VSTs that aren't being used and playing audio at that time. This obviously frees up CPU and could be a big help. To do this, click Tools, Macros, and switch Smart Disable for all plugins. If you think your computer is underpowered in general and struggling to run FL, one thing you can do is turn off the animations, as this will help reduce the load. To do this, go to Options, General Settings, and under the Animations drop down you can pick one of the settings that's going to use less power. It defaults to make it pretty, but don't distract me, we use the least power. Another good way of saving CPU power and workflow tip in general is instead of having reverb on multiple channels in the mixer, you could route all those channels to a different channel and turn it into a bus. You can then add reverb to the bus, and it's only being used once as opposed to several times as it was before, and this will save CPU. If you find that a particular VST is causing your system to creak, or you think it is particularly CPU intensive, one thing that you can do is create a custom instrument out of it. To do this, right click on the slot in the channel rack for that instrument and choose Create Direct Wave Instrument. You'll then get this pop-up asking you to name it, call it what you like, click Save, and then you'll get this interface. Most of the time you can leave it as it is and just click Start. Once it's finished rendering, you've got your own custom version of that instrument. You can delete the original and use this one instead, and it should use less CPU. As you can hear, there is no difference between the original creepy piano and the custom version I've just created with the DWP method. Another good thing to do is to bounce your MIDI out to WAV file. This has quite a few benefits. It's easy to manipulate once it's audio, but one of the main benefits is that it uses less power. You have many options of different ways to export MIDI to audio using FL. The method I normally use is to highlight the pattern in the playlist and then choose Render and Replace under the Patterns menu. As you can hear, once the audio has been rendered out, it sounds exactly the same as the MIDI did. It's worth noting though that if your MIDI was run through a mixer channel with effects on it, the audio that's rendered out will also have those effects already applied. So if you wish to have just the raw sound without the effects applied, make sure you take them off before you render it out. Okay, this next tip is going to differ a little bit depending on what setup you have and what hardware you use, but essentially the process is the same. Firstly, you should try and make sure you've got the correct ASIO driver selected for your interface. You can use ASIO for all, FL Studio, ASIO, etc. But if there is one for your particular interface, it's probably better to use that if you can. If you're still getting slowdowns and poor audio, even after selecting the right driver, then you can play with the buffer length. The one thing to be aware of when you play with the buffer length is the larger the buffer length, the higher the latency. So you need to be careful and find the correct balance. Here's an example of a vocal VST that was really hitting my CPU hard and causing crackling and terrible audio. Even after I played with the buffer length, it still didn't sound great, so in this case I had to bounce it out to WAV. So a combination of the previous two tips really helped. And as you can hear, it fixed my problem, so I was able to move on with the project. thing that you can try, if you're still having problems, is to turn on multi-threaded generator processing and multi-threaded mixer processing. Most modern PCs and laptops have multiple cores, and as far as I can understand it, this allows those to be used. One additional step might be required in order for this to work, and that's to go into the VST itself, into the little cog icon, then the VST wrapper settings. In the processing tab, make sure allow threaded processing is selected. Now I've got a little bonus tip if you're using KONTAKT and it's slow to load. A quick warning though, this will take a long time to do, but it will save you a lot of time in the future.
It is long for you.
So inside KONTAKT itself, click on the little disk icon and choose Batch Resave from the drop down menu. You will then get this pop-up menu and click yes if you want to go ahead. Again, I'm going to warn you, it will take a long time to do.
It is long for you.
But I do think it is worth it. The reason that I suggest doing this is because in the future, once you've done it, when you load a bank, it will load almost instantly, instead of taking a long time to load like it would previously. And finally, some more bonus tips in case you're still having issues with performance. Make sure your computer, particularly laptops, is on high performance mode and not on battery. Make sure that FL is set to high priority inside Windows Task Manager. And it's good practice if you can to only have FL Studio open and nothing else. Try not to have Photoshop or anything open in the background, as that's just going to use CPU unnecessarily. And that's pretty much it for this one. Hopefully you got something out of it, and hopefully your FL Studio performance will increase. Let me know which tip you found most useful in the comments, and if you think I've missed any out, feel free to add them in the comments and I'll try and include them if I do a video like this in the future. If you liked this video and found it helpful, please consider hitting the subscribe button, as I post tutorials, beats, remixes, all kinds of good stuff on a weekly basis. If you don't want to miss one, hit the little bell next to it as well, and you'll never miss out. If you're in the market for sample packs, check out the store at razorsharpe.com. There are both free and paid packs in there, and it gets updated all the time. Until next time, stay safe, be productive, I'll catch you on the next one.